Do you ever wonder how to tell if somebody is safe after you've been spiritually abused? Do you ever think that you're ever being overly cautious, suspicious, or even paranoid of somebody else's possibly good intentions? As a spiritual abuse survivor, it can really be a daunting and an overwhelming task to navigate the world and to determine who is safe to build relationships with after you have survived spiritual abuse. It takes time to build the skill, and life does not promise us who's going to turn out safe and who is not. But if anything, with practice and time, you can make better decisions in who you decide to be in personal, friendship, and romantic relationships with, and basically who you let into your circle. So I encourage you to take time with this process because the safe and the genuine people generally tend to stick around. My name is Dr. Felicia, and I'm the owner of Skillset Counseling, where I focus on the treatment of OCD, spiritual abuse, and cultural abuse. And today's topic is going to be in the area of spiritual abuse. And it's going to be a question that I encounter often in both my personal and my clinical work or personal and clinical experiences. And that is, how do I tell that somebody is safe? And it can be, like I said before, it can be really challenging as a spiritual abuse survivor to go through this. So one way to know is how they react when you say no, when you disagree with something, when you don't want to do something that they do. And the reason for this is that spiritually abusive people, they tend to be very manipulative and controlling, and they cause harm. And their weapon of choice in doing this is spirituality. So if someone's intention is to control you and to manipulate you, they're going to react in a different way from a safe person when you say no or when you express your own autonomy and your own individuality. Okay. And so, the next time you're in a conversation with somebody or any kind of situation, look and perceive how they react when you don't go along with something they want to do. Do they respect your boundaries? Are they okay with it? Or do they try to be pushy and controlling using spirituality as a way to shame you and make you feel obligated to go along with their wishes? So that's one way. Also, if you find this video helpful so far, please take the time to give the video a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm and getting this information out to people who will find it helpful. The other thing that spiritually abusive people tend to do is they tend to gaslight a lot. And if you want to understand more about gaslighting, go to my video that says, "What is gaslighting?" I also have a playlist on gaslighting that will explain all of this in more detail. But because spiritually abusive people tend to be controlling, they use gaslighting as one of the tools in their toolbox to try and get people to go along with what they want. And they do this specifically by trying to control your perception of your reality and your emotions. I'm not going to go into this too much in this video. If you go into my playlist on gaslighting, like I said before, it will go more into depth on this, but they gaslight a lot. Another thing that people who are spiritually abusive tend to do is they use something called spiritual bypass quite often. And I have a video again on this called spiritual bypassing. But basically, spiritual bypassing is exactly what it sounds like. It is using spirituality to bypass the root of a complex and emotional situation, something that's challenging. Instead of just facing it head on or acknowledging the truth of what is going on, they will use a lot of spiritual phrases, spiritual niceties, cliches, and platitudes to throw a blanket over it and basically pretend that it doesn't exist. And that's what spiritual bypassers and spiritual abusers do. Now, not every case of spiritual bypassing involves spiritual abuse, right? Sometimes people do it for different reasons, which I go over in my video about it. But you will tend to find that spiritually abusive people do this. And especially when they are part of a problem, they use spiritual bypassing as a way to avoid accountability. Okay. And it can be extremely damaging and abusive if this goes on for long periods of time. And again, if you want to learn more about spiritual bypass, just go to my video on spiritual bypass and I'll explain more about this. And the last one is that they are two-faced, right? They are, and the two-facedness, there's a very drastic difference between who they are, perhaps in public, and who they are in private. Okay, everyone has different ways they are around certain people. We may be relaxed or more comfortable around one group of people than another, but spiritually abusive people are very different people in very different environments. They tend to be overly nice in front of others, and they can be very mean, volatile, and just mean, just abusive, even emotionally and verbally abusive behind closed doors. Okay. And even when you observe their niceness in front of people, it has a fake and very spiritually aggressive, kind of like hostile veneer over it. And if you've gone through spiritual abuse, you'll understand what I'm talking about. You don't feel valued in their presence. You don't feel like their interactions with you are genuine. Okay. And when people are two-faced, it's not just that they're being mean when they're spiritually abusive, it's actually part of their impression management. And so they do this because, and I have a video on this actually that I'd like for you to watch to understand more about this. It's called How We Fall Prey to Spiritual Abuse. But it shows that when this happens, and why this happens, it's part of impression management. So what I mean to say is that in spiritual environments, we tend to expect people to be nice, positive, and kind. And so this goes along with that expectation. So that's why people who are spiritually abusive are very nice in certain settings, especially spiritual settings. But then the longer you get to know them and the more you get to spend time with them, you see these just mean volcanoes erupt. Okay. And so again, I'm going to go over these. The first one is they're just generally controlling. They don't respond well when you say no. The second, they gaslight a lot. The third, they use spiritual bypass a lot. And fourth, they are two-faced. Okay. So if you found this information helpful, please like, subscribe, and comment. I'd love to hear from all of you. What are some other traits that you feel spiritually abusive people show, and how are you able to pick up on this? Okay, so if you found this information helpful, you can also go to my website where you'll find more information about spiritual abuse, and you can also book a consultation with me to help you along your spiritual abuse recovery. I hope you have a wonderful and peaceful day. Bye-bye.